Could you be the one to go away? Can it be? I wanna see that I'm away. More Sicily. Can it be? What do I see? Set me free. Set me free. Hurry up. We're going now. I didn't have to bomb it out with you. Starry-eyed killer. You take me from the ground. Why did I have to fall for you so easily?
Alrighty, hello everybody. Welcome to the Problem Solver Politics live stream. Hope you've had a great I was gonna say few days, but really it's just been the after times now, right? The before times of the election and the after times of the election. But anyways, hope you guys all had a good, restful few days. You did not spend a whole lot of time reading the news and looking at stuff like that, because honestly, not much, a whole lot has changed. Doing a last little double check here to see if anything in particular has really emerged in the past few moments. Don't believe so. However, I would not be surprised to see some big news as far as the presidential election goes coming pretty soon. Now, before we start, Adam Duffy, what's up, dude? Welcome to Super Chat. Anyway, let's get into some of the more later news. So this broke a little bit earlier today. It looks like local outlets had been reporting it sooner. I had just seen it come across in the last hour or so. But it's from the Atlanta Journal-Constitution. A lot of talk about president. I'm sure you guys have heard a lot about the president. Don't worry, we'll get into the president. But president wasn't the only election on the ballot earlier this week. So let's just ignore president for a minute. My money's on Biden now. Like many people, I was like, man, looks like Trump's winning on election night. Basically, since the morning after election night, I've just been under the assumption Biden will win. I don't know what the word for it is, but it does seem like, call it providence. They will find every vote they need for Biden. So he's going to win, which isn't really the biggest deal. But this is where things get weird and interesting. So I want to show you guys. In the state of Georgia, they made the call earlier today that a runoff was going to happen for the Senate seat between a Mr. David Perdue and a Mr. John Ossoff. Anyways, I literally said that as I read your comments, like Cactus. That's pretty much funny. Now, why does this matter? I'm sure many of you don't live in Georgia. I don't live in Georgia. However, this matters because those two Senate seats more or less are going to decide the majority. It appears that they're going to be calling Alaska and North Carolina here fairly soon, which would put the GOP at just at about 50 seats, which would leave the Dems with 2 up for grabs. So a tie would currently, with under the assumption Biden wins, a tie in the Senate would mean that Kamala Harris would be making a lot of tiebreakers if they couldn't get a Mitt Romney or someone to come over to the Democrats, right? However, the reason I bring it up is these 2 Senate seats they're going to be doing a runoff for in Georgia basically decide who wins who controls the Senate. If things hold the way they are, and then Democrats win both of these, they will, again, force a tie in the Senate, and more or less a forced tie. They're going to be able to pretty much control the Senate. So, that'd be good for the Democrats. Now, I would be very... The fact that both of these races have gone to a runoff, this is what I want to get to. I guess we'll get to kind of what the title of the stream I'm trying to talk about here a little bit. Biden is, like I said, I'm assuming Biden will win. Again, I would be dumbfounded if they do not just keep finding ballots till Biden wins. I'd be dumbfounded that doesn't happen. That's what I assume is going to happen. The issue is, now House is still good for the Democrats. However, they actually, Politico, look, I'm not one of those big, like, the media's in the bag for the Democrats. I agree some of them are biased, but, like, this is literally framed from the perspective of, like, the Democratic Party. It isn't like, this is what happened here, this is what happened here. GOP actually took some seats. Dems lost some seats. And it's kind of lead to the trend I'm getting to. And again, as well, Senate currently tied. Looks like Senate, it might literally be like a 51 to 49 majority for the Republicans, or 50-50. I mean, that's how close we are in the Senate. However, what's weird is, and this is where we get to kind of the nightmare scenario. I don't have it pulled up, but I'm sure many of you guys have heard this. Joe Biden got more votes than anybody for president ever, I believe. Ever. No one has ever voted for a president more than America voted for Joe Biden, I believe is the number. Which I believe, but like, what does it mean when Joe Biden breaks the record for like no president had more popular votes than Joe Biden? Everyone came out for Joe Biden. However, the Senate looks to be basically where it was, maybe plus one seat for the Democrats. I think they mentioned that. So the seats weren't going into the Senate. We've talked about, I can show you guys in a minute, we talked about the hundreds of millions of dollars that went to beating Mitch McConnell and Lindsey Graham. Didn't happen, so they're still there. How about the House? How are things going in the House? Oh, sorry. I hope it wasn't like that the whole time so you guys couldn't see this. Here's what we're looking at in the Senate, and this is what we're looking at in the House. How about the House? Well, the Democrats have kept their House majority, but they were expecting a blue wave and they didn't get it because the GOP has actually put themselves into a position to maybe win the House back in 2022. Again, Joe Biden, most popular candidate ever. No candidate would vote for him than Joe Biden. So why weren't they voting down ticket for Democrats? Now here's the thing. Some of the conspiratorial Trump people, they're saying because it's rigged, right? This one I thought was funny right here. This is from, I wonder if U.S. rebellion is pro-Trump. But look at the numbers they point out. It's pretty much funny. They say, the pattern in swing states with Senate races. So in Michigan, you see that Trump had 2.6 million votes. You see the GOP Senate in Michigan, so like state, or the Senate candidate had 2.6 million votes. You'll see Biden at 2.7. Basically, though, I read the numbers wrong, I just realized. You'll notice, however, the split between votes for Biden as opposed to votes for the senator was about 60,000 votes. That's bigger than it was for the Republican. And you can see this trends to other states. Georgia, you can see some similar trends like this. Now, people that are kind of conspiratorial, the election is rigged, they've stolen this election from the president. Those people will insist it's because it's rigged, it's stolen. However, what if it isn't rigged? What if it isn't stolen? And what if what's really going on here? Again, something else interesting too. I wanna highlight here a little bit for you guys. This is from the National Conference of State Legislators, the NSCL blog. God, sorry, 1 second. They don't have the mobile view optimized on their website, so I have to move it around. Otherwise, you can't read it. Anyway, they put out something interesting here. So, 2020 legislative election results, it's status quo in the states. So at this point, there's very few changes, and that is phenomenal in and of itself. So the NCSL has confirmed just 2 legislative chambers that have switched party control. The New Hampshire Senate and House moved from Democrat to Republican after both went the other way in 2018. So we can maybe correct to a norm there. Now, Democrats could still win the Arizona House for the first time since 1966. Votes are being counted. They may there, right? But of the chambers we can call, we have 0 changes so far. In other words, this appears to be a remarkably status quo election in the United States. With just 2 chamber flips so far, it looks like 2020 will see the least party control changes on Election Day since at least 1944, when only 4 chambers changed hands. In the 1926 and 1928 elections, only 1 chamber changed hands. Even adding in the governor's races leads to very little change in the state partisan landscape. There was only 1 party change among the chief executives, and that was in the open governor's race in Montana, where term-limited Democratic Governor Steve Bullock ran for and lost the Senate race, so Republican candidate Greg Gianforte took the mansion back for the GOP. So between New Hampshire and Montana, Republicans picked up 2 new trifectas, trifecta being both kind of like if you have a state senate and a state assembly or whatever you call them, they have different ones, and the governorship, so basically control of everything. Right now, Minnesota remains the only state in the nation with divided legislative control. That could change if only one of the Arizona chambers flips. We'll know soon enough. As it stands right now, the big news in the state front is that after all the furor, campaign spending, and get-out-to-vote efforts, the political landscape has barely budged. Oh, they actually took out a extra line at the bottom that used to be there, which is weird. Anyway, the point I'm getting at here is, yes, Biden looks like he's going to win. I'd be really surprised if Biden didn't win. However, and again, I don't think this is the Dems trying to steal the election, but yeah, I think you're going to see things like this, where in a state like Georgia, maybe more than 100,000 people voted, 100,000 more people voted for Joe Biden than they actually did in the Senate race for any Democratic senators. Because I remember in 2016, like, there was a lot of change. Like, Trump didn't just, he like wanna, it looks like, honestly, Biden might win with similar electoral votes, right? But it was a big change politically. A bunch of new people came in. We got a bunch of old people out. A bunch of things changed. It was a big move for the Republicans. I would say, to kind of draw parallels from the two, like 4 years ago as well, Republicans had a lead in the House, and they saw their House lead shrink, and then they saw their House lead evaporate in the midterms. We saw Democrats carry a lead into the 2020 elections, and instead of growing that lead, they've seen it shrink. And now we'll see what happens going into the midterms. But what if that is just the reality? Again, some weird, maybe numerical irregularities or whatever do come from the fact that people didn't show up to vote for Democrats. They showed up to vote against Trump, enough to beat Trump, but they didn't show up to vote for Democrats. In Georgia, it appears as I'm speaking right now, we're going to see Biden take Georgia, right? Actually, Georgia's got a pretty comfortable, they're like state representatives, pretty comfortable red. That didn't change. Again, people didn't even bother to come up and vote enough for their senators enough to have this not go to a runoff. We're going to have 2 runoffs in the state. And, you know, it's going to be a bit of a high for Democrats. Now, unfortunately, the high is going to be even shorter lived than you would think, especially if this runoff, if these special elections go bad, because this also came out, I want to say, 14 hours ago, from Axios. The GOP Senate win wreaks havoc on Biden transition plans. Republicans likely holding the Senate is forcing Joe Biden's transition team to consider limiting its prospective cabinet nominees, to those who Mitch McConnell can live with, according to people familiar. Now, I always say sources familiar is another way of saying some guy told me. Not some guy, but anyway. I have to imagine, yeah, if the Republicans do hold the Senate and Mitch McConnell still... My point I'm trying to bring up here is there might be a scenario where voters came out to put Biden in over Trump because they wanted Trump out, but they didn't give the Democrats any ammo aside from that. As a matter of fact, not exclusively, but out here locally, for example, one of the big kind of more progressive propositions you saw getting pushed in California was Prop 17, I believe it was. It was to bring affirmative action back, and that comfortably got squashed in California, which again, California was like plus 4 million votes to Joe Biden. That's a pretty rough reality for the Democratic Party moving forward for the next few years. Again, and this is based off just assuming Biden wins. And again, I would be very hard pressed. I'm not going to bring up any numbers why Biden will win. I just got this gut feeling that no matter what happens, Joe Biden will reach the amount of votes he needs. I don't know why. I just feel like no matter what happens, he will have his votes. However, this wasn't some overwhelming embrace of the Democratic Party. This wasn't some, listen to this. A source close to McConnell tells Axios a Republican Senate would work with Biden on centrist nominees, but no radical progressives or ones who are controversial with conservatives. Where's the line where they mention there's going to be no Bernie? It also gives Biden a ready excuse to reject left-of-center candidates like Elizabeth Warren or Bernie Sanders. Womp womp. No Bernie in the cabinet if Mitch McConnell holds on. Now here's something else that's pretty annoying. The special elections that are coming up. They're January 5th, early January. I mean, it's before the next president's sworn in, I believe. However, the election season is literally going to go like this. They're going to drag out this presidential election another few weeks probably. Biden could declare victory tonight if Georgia gets called for him, but Arizona, this could get drug out for weeks. And then as soon as they finish dragging this out, it's going to go, and all you're going to hear about is the most important Senate elections of all time in Georgia. Another $500 million are going to be spent in these Senate races because it controls the Senate. Now, what worries me is I hope stimulus talks don't get tabled till January 5th. I got a feeling stimulus talks are going to get tabled till January 5th, though. I really do. Now, I'll get to one reason why I hope I'm not. I hope I'm wrong. I hope they're not. But I feel like they might be tabling these stimulus talks. However, again, to get back to the... Now, I can pull it up, but Nancy Pelosi was talking some... She was talking some stuff before this election, talking about how, Democrats are going to expand their House advantage. Democrats are going to set themselves up in the House so that it'll be impossible for them to lose in the midterms. All kinds of crazy nonsense like that. Well, things are going so good in the Democratic caucus over there in the House Representatives that they had a meeting today, and a lot of the meeting leaked out to the press. And let's take a look at it. It's a couple hours ago now. I guess earlier this afternoon. Spangenberger on the Dem caucus call. We lost races we shouldn't have lost. Defund police almost cost me my race because of an attack ad. Don't say socialism ever again. Need to get back to basics. Is yelling in parentheses. Is yelling. So I guess adamant, if we run this race again, we will get effing torn apart again in 2022, Spangenberger says. Pelosi comes back and says she disagrees. They won the House and presidency. They didn't win. I mean, I guess they won the House. Democrats lost room in the House. They lost House advantage, and they might sneak into the presidency, but they're going to be sneaking into the presidency with voters who didn't support them down ballot. And that's what I'm trying to get into. The potential nightmare scenario is COVID doesn't just go away. Mitch McConnell doesn't just sign a stimulus. Joe Biden isn't allowed to just do whatever he wants. He has to work with Mitch McConnell on everything. The voters themselves mostly just voted against Trump. They didn't want to put Democrats in power anywhere, and they kind of didn't. State levels, most state legislatures are remaining red. The majority are red and have been. So yes, and then here's the other thing too. Donald Trump is like electorally, in football, you have quarterbacks. Like Peyton Manning was a great example. Like when you have Peyton Manning on the team, he just did so much. He was such a focal point. The whole team could be garbage and they'd do pretty good. Just an aside. Donald Trump is such a media dynamo. Doesn't matter what he does. Him existing and you being able to draw negative or positive attention against him, it elevates voters. That's gone too. Democrats don't get to say, look at Trump, look at what he's doing. They get to point at Mitch McConnell still, which is valid. They'll point at Mitch McConnell, but they don't get to point at Trump anymore. Trump's gone. You beat him. Voters are going to say, we got rid of Trump, I know. But now you guys, what is it you do? And then they're going to point and say, well, Mitch McConnell. And voters are going to say, well, guess who put Mitch McConnell there? Guess who decided that the Republicans should, or that the Senate should stay pretty even? You know what I mean? Because Democrats could force a tie. Keep that in mind. Technically, they could win it. I think some of these races, some of these races would be insane if the Democrat won, just because it's like red states that voted red everywhere else. It'd have to be just like a random 9-point swing to a Democrat. So we're probably going to have a pretty tie there. I see a pretty rough couple years ahead for the Democrats. I really do. Especially because most people I know who support Joe Biden don't think he's some hotshot ace legislator that's really going to turn things around. Most people are just so convinced Trump was doing so much damage, replacing him with anyone will help. Well, hey, hope you're right about that. Hopefully anyone's good enough. Because no one's going to make life easy on... how about this? The main reason I want to go through this as well, looking at some of the stuff, the big thing is here. There is a lot of moderate Democrat Congress people who, by the way, the Congress is shrinking, who are going to be like, look, if we keep doing these more progressive left things, I'm losing. I'm not going to give my seat up. So, maybe they'll fall in line the way they did with impeachment behind Nancy Pelosi, but you'll notice a lot of pushbacks against Nancy Pelosi here. I thought this was funny. Rashida Tlaib saying, before we make painful statements, now, I'm assuming that's a quote, but I don't know why she'd phrase it that otherwise. We need to wait and see how the numbers come down. Feels like I'm being asked to be quiet. We need to appeal to certain people, and that's not right. And yeah, I mean, imagine if either party had supported marijuana legalization. I wonder if they would have won some of these swing states by bigger margins. But yeah, and then sorry, I want to show you about this. Where it appears the Nancy Pelosi strategy of the that's the sorry. Maybe I should have titled this, or maybe the premise I'm getting at more is the nightmare scenario for progressives more than Democrats. Democrats might be okay, just kind of brokering deals with Mitch McConnell and knowing they can't go too far left because there's too many vulnerable House members, especially with midterms coming up. But we'll get into this now. Dem leaders warned that liberal rhetoric could blow Georgia races. If we're going to run a Medicare for all to fund the police, socialized medicine, we're not going to win, says Jim Clyburn, who was basically the reason why Joe Biden's president right now, depending on how you look at this. So, that's a bit much, right? But definitely someone who is influential in the South in politics and understands kind of what's going on with politics there. So, Speaker Nancy Pelosi, our top lieutenant, had a stark warning for Democrats on Thursday. Swing too far left, and they're all but certain to blow their chances in the Georgia Senate runoff that will determine which party controls the Senate. It's almost like, what's that meme? The healthcare please meme? You know what I mean? It's like, hey, as soon as Trump's impeached, Trump doesn't get impeached. As soon as Biden wins. As soon as we finish the Senate runoffs, the Senate runoffs don't happen. It's like, when does it happen? It's always going to be as soon. Because then, here's the thing. If Nancy Pelosi's saying, oh, we can't do Medicare for all and any of this stuff now, what? When their House lead is shrunk when they go into the midterms in 2022, all of a sudden it's going to be, now blow the doors off. Medicare for all, defund the police. We'll give progressives everything they want now. Come on. Like, that's really going to happen? Especially, again, Donald Trump, like the Republicans, like, not only did America not embrace the Democrats in this election, by and large, they've embraced the Republicans about as much as they did going in. One Senate seat. Again, remove Trump. Just removing Trump from the situation. One Senate seat so far moved. Maybe we'll see more. Again, the House went in favor of the Republicans. They don't say it here, but this is more in favor of Republicans than it was before. Still Dem controlled. We see what I mean? Like, there was no other wins for Democrats. Again, even like propositions, I guess, hit or miss. We did see in Nevada, they became the first constitution to protect gay marriage. But I would say in 2020, gay marriage is not like a hot button progressive issue as well. But like, so what is the next few years? Because let's get into something else here, right? Because unofficially, but let's move forward with Biden being president. Which again, I would be dumbfounded if anything else happened. I think Biden would be president. Well, I got I don't want to say bad news for Biden because I'm sure everyone knows this. But remember all the political mumbo jumbo I was just talking about? Just the stuff like you have these Senate elections. The House is going to have to, like, not even the House, Democrats in general are going to have to try to, like, ironically enough, well, Trump's gone. So now, like, we kind of have to, like, get rid of these progressives because they're going to hurt us because these moderate types aren't going to be kind of, like, turned away by Trump's brashness and racism and xenophobia or whatever. That's not in the ballot anymore. So we do have to appear more moderate than we did in the past. So we don't need these people anymore. But on top of that, I've been reliably informed that U.S. set another daily record for COVID cases. Colleges cases are soaring. Now, here's the thing. COVID doesn't care that, hey, COVID doesn't care that we have to recount, COVID doesn't care that President-elect Biden might have to wait 5 or 6 weeks to be confirmed and have these races end. COVID doesn't care that there's not going to be any real clarity in the Senate until maybe midway through January. But I'll tell you what, it's going to be March. Let's assume the Senate stays the way it is. What happens when it's March? Joe Biden's president. COVID hasn't gotten any better. We're locking down again. It's starting to get to it's kind of hard to just say I was left a mess thing and people are going to be not listening anymore. Go to March 2021. Like, dude, like, are the Democrats going to have the House and the Senate in 2022? Is Joe Biden going to be around in 2022? How about that? Whatever party won this election, they needed to take firm control of all three branches of government. Because obstruction is the name of the game for the minority party in this country now. Just the Democrats have established. Just obstruct. You want to talk about, Republicans are going to barely be the minority party in some regards. They're going to be able to obstruct like hell. All day. Every day. So think about this. You're going to have Mitch McConnell making life hell for Joe Biden. Joe Biden, who again, even people who vote for Joe Biden don't think he's a rock star. They just hated Trump. And I get that this is a little bit unscientific, but you could just look at some of these numbers where it's like, where it's like Joe Biden gets, X amount of votes and the senator gets less. And it's not only that. I get that these numbers fluctuate and I use that as empirical evidence, but you can also look at the fact that Joe Biden is winning states where down ballot, they're just voting for local red reps. Because people wanted Trump gone. They didn't want just full Democrat leadership everywhere. So, I don't know, man. This feels like it's not breaking so great for the Democrats looking forward. It looks like they might have a lame duck presidency from day one almost. Especially because, again, it would be one thing if Joe Biden was some dynamo with this very intricate plan and all this stuff. But no, he isn't. What is Joe Biden gonna do? What is Joe Biden gonna do? Again, it's not like Americans showed up down ballot to push Democrats over the finish line. Hell, Nancy Pelosi's coming out and saying, we have to not be progressive anymore if we want to sneak out a barely, a tie or the smallest advantage possible in the Senate. That's where they are right now. This is rich. This is rich. Pelosi had her own message to House Democrats, telling them to focus on an agenda of lowering health care, better paychecks, and building infrastructure. Sorry, I was grabbing the water. The reason why they didn't get the gains in the House they had been planning on, the reason why Democrats didn't get the gains in the House Nancy Pelosi had promised them, was because the Democrats did not run on an agenda of lowering health care, better paychecks, and building infrastructure. You'll notice, what's not in here? COVID. Doesn't matter anymore. Same people telling you Donald Trump is personally responsible for 300,000 COVID deaths are going to turn around and be like, well, you can't blame the president for everything. It's because they're just narrative building. They don't care. Even then, I'm not going to blame Joe Biden for anything that happens when he takes over. It's a pandemic. But yeah, so anyway. Overlooking, and again, all the hullabaloo about these states, trust me, they'll find the votes for Biden. Biden's going to win, so that's spoiler there. But once you move past that, it's everything the Democrats campaigned on was rejected. Democrats are having calls, they're having meetings saying everything we ran on was rejected except for getting rid of Trump. That was the only thing that people were receptive to. Everything else we ran on, people didn't like. They didn't want. They just said get rid of Trump. So they believed us on that. But what do we do now? Sorry, Cardin is on vacation. Friend's wedding, I believe. It's good for him. But yeah, I'm on 8 scope. Would AOC plus the squad plan a coup against Pelosi? Would? Yes. Could? Probably not, right? Sure, they'd love to. I don't think they have enough influence. They're all pretty young. They haven't been in there. There's people between 32 and 80. You know, there's people that have been in Congress for a few years who have some weight and some cachet. Speaking of. Because, yeah, moving off Pelosi as Speaker of the House, that looks like something that might be a real possibility. Trying to pull up again the name person they're thinking of going with instead. Today, drinking smart water. Smart water. Well, here's the thing. But like AOC as Speaker or some other big shifts. Or how about this even? Something about the idea of the 25th Amendment being about getting rid of Biden and not Trump. If that was the plan originally, they might be rethinking it. Because, how do I word this correctly? Like, dude, seriously, it looks like what the Democratic Party positioned themselves as, aside from blaming COVID on the president, it was largely rejected. Like, largely, that wasn't what people wanted. And, you know, and I say this because Democrats are coming out and saying, don't run on this stuff anymore. Let's go back to what we used to run. Let's go back to stuff that worked for us. They're saying, yeah, maybe we shouldn't do like. So what? Just drop everything they campaigned on? I mean, that's kind of one of the dangers of running this the way they ran it with Trump. When you just say Trump is, because here's the thing, Trump was sold as being so bad. I mean, just the absence of Trump should lead to utopia. Like just the fact that Trump's out of office, even if Joe Biden literally does nothing, right? Everything should get considerably better pretty quickly, just because Trump won't be making it worse anymore, right? Hey, maybe that's how voters will feel in 2022. And it will be unfair to the Democrats, but the voters in 2022 will say, wait a minute, things aren't better for me. And we got rid of Trump. Man, I don't know. This was the worst result, I think. Because if Democrats had like a 4-seat lead in the Senate and like expanded their House leads and they had like flipped state legislators and they had like taken governorships, it's a whole different story. If the American voters came out and said, yes, we want all the stuff you guys are putting out, Democrats, you had a great campaign. Different story. Instead, it was like none of that passed. It was like there's literally, to the point, and call it what you want it, there is people claiming there's voter fraud, pointing to the fact that like hundreds of thousands of ballots came in with only Biden and no other candidate marked on it. And you know what? Maybe that's just how voters felt, where they're like, I'm not supporting any local Democrats. I won't support Republicans either, but no local Democrats. I'll just vote Biden. What if the reality is it isn't a fix, it isn't rigged, which is what I believe, by the way. That's just how voters feel. They don't like Trump, but they sure as hell don't like Democrats either. And now, guess what? A bunch of voters, a country full of voters who didn't embrace the Democratic Party have a Democratic president to point and blame, and a Republican, Mitch McConnell, sitting over there, probably going to be Speaker of the House still in Senate. Not Speaker of the House, Senate Majority Leader over there in Senate, telling Joe Biden who he can and can't have in his cabinet. But here's the thing. Hey, at least Trump's gone, right? All these people, all these Democrats coming at me. Again, I'm not talking about like people on Twitter tweeting. I'm talking about all these like Democrat like operatives and like Democrat representatives and like Democrat activists in the media. All these people who are putting nonsense out all the time. How about it's just about getting rid of Trump. I hope they keep that in mind. When Trump's gone and people are blaming the Democrats and there's gridlock in the Senate and everyone hates the Democrats and they're blaming them in Congress, I hope they keep in mind, hey, but look, what are you guys complaining about? Trump's gone. We got rid of Trump. Like, you guys all said nothing else matters, right? I just want people to remember that. Trump's gone now. Nothing else matters. Like, Democrats should be able to just, but again, the American public didn't decide they wanted Democrats to just run this country either. So I don't know where we're left. We're not left in a very good spot, right? We're left in a weird spot. My own scope. Did you catch the Yang interview by Rolling Stone? No. I'm behind on some Yang interview. I'm behind on a lot of stuff lately, quite frankly, a lot of stuff going on. But I'm interested in catching up on that pretty soon. No, trust me. I know Biden's going to win, but Biden winning it's not obviously Biden winning is probably preferable than Trump, don't get me wrong, but Biden winning, but the Senate staying in Republican hands, that's more up in the air than not. But Biden winning and voters across the country deciding they'd rather more Republicans were in the House instead of less. Biden winning and state legislators across the country staying red, not flipping blue. Biden winning and no new blue governors. That's not good. That almost feels like Biden's screwed. Like, what is he going to do? Maybe he'll be the great uniter and Mitch McConnell and him will be, pounding bows, best of friends. Sounds like Mitch McConnell's thinking he gets to just run this stuff now. McConnell gets to decide, what kind of a cabinet he's going to have. I love this. Susan Rice and Stacey Abrams could be early casualties depending on McConnell's posture. Yeah, you think? Like, well, Jack Vex, it could be good for the American public in a way when you have some gridlock and they have to make coalitions. Don't get me wrong. It's bad for the Democrat establishment when you win the presidency, but by and large, voters don't want you. They don't necessarily hate the Democrats. They hate them. They hate the Democrats less than they hate Trump. Okay, that's good. But again, there isn't a comparison to Trump anymore. Now it's just they hate the Democrats less than what? Well, we actually do kind of hate you guys. We don't want anything you're pushing. But again, hey, a bunch of people told me all that matters is beating Trump. As long as Trump is gone, nothing else matters. That Biden could run over my feet and feed me my dog and I'd still vote for him because all that matters is beating Trump. Well, all that energy, I love it. Trump has been beaten probably. Now you have to govern this country. And you have to govern this country with a slim majority in the House. So that means you can't really go around playing games. You're going to have to probably more or less find things that most Americans want. Because you got a bunch of people freaking out, losing their shit in the House right now. Excuse me. Afraid that they're next. That they're going to be losing their seat. Talking about all this stuff you ran your presidential campaign on. Can't we just go back to drone strikes and bad deals? No, Mitch McConnell won't let it happen. Actually, it's probably exactly what we go back to is drone strikes and bad deals. It's probably exactly what we go back to. But I mean, again, think of dude, just everything was about Trump. Well, now Trump lost. Now that Trump lost, you have Democrats saying, if we say defund the police, we're going to get effing torn apart again in 2022. So again, this might not be the nightmare for the Democrats. Maybe it's what Democrats want. This looks like the progressive nightmare. The progressive nightmare scenario. Every progressive talking point backfired. Only Joe Biden won. And a big reason why Joe Biden won is because he'd go on the debate stage and say, I beat people like Bernie Sanders because I'm not a socialist. That's who won. And the socialists who won ran, they lost. The more progressive far left policies you ran on almost cost you the House. I'm Al Nate Scope. Seeing the right turn on Ben Shapiro, LOL, one of the funniest things I've seen all year. When are you going to admit you're well, you have to remember, though, there's the when you're talking about the right, and this is honestly what's something going on. Keep not even a close eye. It's a big talking point on the right now. Mitch McConnell and Lindsey Graham, they're not saying anything about this election. They won. McConnell won already. He's not parroting Trump's "they're stealing the election" talking points. He's like, I'm done. Is Zero Hedge a legit website? That, my friend, is a very difficult question to answer. They're either dangerous alt-right misinformation or it's about as accurate as a lot of other blogs. Honestly, I'll read stuff on Zero Hedge. I would just say Zero Hedge is one of those websites. Definitely check everything. Not everything you read, but like if you read something that sounds crazy and there's nothing to back any of it up, it is kind of like a blog. It's not a reputable source. However, it's not, I don't know. I haven't seen Zero Hedge to be insane, over-the-top, crazy nonsense either. It's generally just kind of like blog posting stuff. Anyway. But no, the Republican Party, there's people who follow Donald Trump and like the MAGA movement, and there's Republicans. For example, this Madison Cawthorn kid, the 25-year-old youngest House member in like 100 years or whatever like that, who won in North Carolina, I think, MAGA Republicans don't like him. He's like a George Bush Republican. I mean, just because there isn't as good of a word in a divide, there is something pretty similar and akin to what you see with the progressives and the establishment Democrats, with like MAGA Trump Republicans and the establishment Republicans, right? Like think of when Chris Matthews had a meltdown because he thought Bernie Sanders was going to win. That was Ben Shapiro 4 years ago when Donald Trump won. He was having a meltdown. How dare the establishment? So yeah, I mean, the relationship between Ben Shapiro and like the MAGA crowd, it's probably going to fray immediately. I would not be surprised at anything at all. But yes, so that's that was most of us wanted to go over talking about as far as the kind of results and fallout of the election. Just taking a look at it, I've been looking and I'm just looking. I'm like, okay, tracks for a butt. I don't even say if it tracks. Just my gut tells me Biden wins. And then looking at everything else, I'm like, this sucks for Democrats. What are they gonna do with this? All their platforms got rejected. They're basically back to the drawing board and what Americans like. Especially, think about this. Not only are they back to the drawing board and the things Americans like, the one thing Americans did apparently agree with them on, Trump wasn't the right guy to be president, that's gone forever. Unless Trump runs again, right? But I mean, like, that's gone for their first 4 years. You can't even really, like, legislate on that. There just is no Trump anymore. He's gone. You beat him. So I don't know, man. And again, there isn't signs that Americans are on board for the platforms the Democrats are putting together. The signs are all pointing that Americans are not on board for that vision of the future of America Democrats had, to the point where mostly Democrats lost. It's just they won the presidency. Let's see. NS Greeny, in your opinion, how would you rank MSN news sources by trustworthiness? I guess if you were to look at it as like a tiered system, right? Like A tier, B tier, C tier. Trustworthiness, they're all D tier. Honestly, none of them are trustworthy. The bigger the organization is, like New York Times, Associated Press, the bigger and more influential the publication is, the less relevant if they're lying is, because they'll just be accepted as the truth anyway. So Like if the New York Times, the Associated Press, CNN, and the Washington Post all lied about the same thing, it's not a lie. It's just the truth now because they're credible enough. But yeah, like on a whole, I don't trust any of them at all. I just assume they all lie. So, but that's me. I hate the media. I hate the government. Always have. Always will. The Epoch Times, I believe that. They're kind of like conservative leaning. That's about it. Again, I wouldn't take them as trustworthy or just like, yep, they're telling the truth. Check all of it. But again, I wouldn't say they're like considerably worse than others. I'm sure Associated Press and PBS are reliable, but again, I don't trust what they say, so it's good that they're reliable. And again, they're also big enough for the Associated Press really can't be wrong about too much, It just is the truth now because they reported it in a lot of circumstances. But that's just that there's no getting around that. I mean, like the narrative is definitely the reality now. I think social media did that. I think because of social media, narrative's reality. It doesn't really matter what's like technically truth or reality. Whatever narrative prevails is what people just will assume is real. And the thing is, because the narrative can reach more people than are actually impacted by the reality, right? More people will believe the narrative than could possibly have even been impacted by whatever it is to know what's real. You know what I'm saying? Kind of worded that. You know what I'm saying? Like, for example, let's say the media was flipped. Let's say the media was convinced this election was fraudulent. So let's say everybody in the media said that dead dogs were voting in Georgia. Whatever. I'm not saying it's true, right? The story from the media about how dead dogs are voting in Georgia, that would reach more people than the people living in Georgia who could say, wait a minute, I live here. Dead dogs aren't voting. To the point where it becomes irrelevant that you live there. It's like, okay, I get that you live there, dude, but I saw it on the news and I read it on social media and I saw it again on the news. So, like, I don't know. Like, am I supposed to just not believe them? Cardin's out of town. He should be back in a few days. I think like tomorrow. I just don't know if he'll be streaming tomorrow when he's back. But yeah, Cardin's out of town for 8 days. But I don't know. It's weird. Isn't it kind of weird? But that is kind of how it works now. I mean, that is really just kind of how it works. Whatever everyone in the media agreed on is basically what's real. And if you don't agree with it, then you're the one that's at odds with reality. Now, there's a quote from a favorite movie of mine, Videodrome. Now, in the movie, they're talking about the television screen. And in many ways, it'd still be the television screen, right? But basically, the idea, right, is that everything you see on that screen becomes a sort of lived experience for you. And that's where you spend all your time is on the screen. Therefore, the lived experiences you get vicariously through the screen become greater than the reality outdoors. That's a very verbatim synopsis of it. But I think we're arriving there. I think this election shows it. Like, how funny is that? Joe Biden wins, but defund the police. And I get Joe Biden wasn't like defund the police. But like, Joe Biden wins. Every progressive talking point gets shut down. House basically gets tilted further away out of the I think I read this is like the slimmest House lead in like since the New Deal for either side. Which I guess you could say this does point to a country divided, right? Like this would be a country divided. A country divided would be that. Where everything. But again, you could say country divided, but then you look at, again, like, I think I voted for Scott Andrew Yang and I wrote an Andrew Yang. But yeah, I wrote in Andrew Yang. Because that's why I want to be president, man. I always say vote for whoever you just want to be president. Whoever that is, if it's your dog, if it's your dead dog, whatever, vote for him. Now, I'll do some looking back. Honestly, I'm kind of thinking about I'm gonna be doing some more content on this channel moving forward. Been thinking about some stuff, some kind of looking back, retrospective stuff on the Yang campaign. Definitely is a couple of things I want to talk about. But so if Biden does mean, what does it mean for the Yang gang? It looks like it may mean very little or a lot, depending on if Mitch McConnell likes Andrew Yang or not. Which I hope isn't what happens, but it's probably gonna be what happens. And yeah, I think if Mitch McConnell is gonna fancy himself as picking the cabinet, he's not gonna be picking Andrew Yang. Which sucks. But again, I kind of knew Andrew Yang wasn't going to be in the cabinet anyway. It's just there's too many mouths to feed, you know? Too many other people involved in the Democratic Party. Too many other people that got Biden votes. Too many other people that got Biden money. Too many other people that could get the Democrats votes in the future. There's just too much other stuff. And then you weigh into the fact now that Mitch McConnell's going to have to be worked with on this. And yeah, I don't see Yang. So I don't know. Any last little questions? We'll hang out with you guys in chat, answer some questions in chat, and then probably be winding down here. Just because we still don't know for sure who the president is. This even I'm talking about the Senate here. Even that's January 5th. We might not know who the president actually is for days. I mean, maybe through the weekend. It's crazy. My local Congress race out here, my local congressperson race, they're currently, last time I checked, they're separated by like 200 votes in a county of like 300,000 people, or in a district of like 300,000 people. They're separated by a couple hundred votes right now. If Biden does win, we get into another war pretty soon, probably. Yeah. Maybe we'll just go back into Afghanistan, but yeah, I have to imagine Biden's. I mean, I remember when Trump got elected, there was all this hullabaloo of like, oh, all this unfinished business that America still has in the Middle East. Oh no, Trump's going to ruin all of it. Well, Biden's in power now, man. Now he gets to go on all that unfinished business that he can take care of. Let's see. Do I believe any of the inconsistencies that the skeptics have brought to light, such as Maricopa County? I mean, I'm a baseball fan, and they had to fire a bunch of baseball managers and suspend a bunch of players because they cheated in the World Series. Yes, I'm sure someone's cheating in this election somewhere. Is it what's flipping the election? I don't think so. Personally, no. I personally think things look weird, but part of that is reporting. They're reporting in stupid ways. These big swing states were not ready for how this election went. They had way more people come out and vote than they thought. I think a lot of people were pushed to just, here's the thing is, Democrats, again, these results show you the failure of the Democrats' message. The orange man's bad. Get rid of him. Excuse me. That one worked. That's why Biden won. Literally every other message they had did not work, and that's why basically nothing else changed, except for Democrats lost House seats. Because no one liked what they were selling. So as soon as you move down the ballot from orange man bad, now you're past the orange man bad part of the ballot. Now you're getting to like the policy parts of the ballot. You're getting to the platform parts of the ballot. Nobody showed up for Democrats. Republicans were people showing up for them. Like, seriously, like Biden will win the state, and like the state legislator, the state house, the state senator, and the majority of state house reps will be red. And like a swing state. Which, you want to know what? That's kind of what I believed. I always kind of thought Trump could win. It was going to be close. And it is, right? I think that's going to be close. But I did kind of think that by and large, what the Democrats were trying to sell to Americans was unpopular. That I believed, and that definitely was proven to be true. I mean, that was proven to be true big time. Like, people didn't want what the Dems were selling. They believed them a bit. They believed them enough on Trump to vote Trump out. They believed them enough, like, okay, Trump's racist. He's a fascist dictator. Okay, we'll vote him out. But I didn't think Democrats were selling. They're just like, yeah, nah. No thanks. I'm just going to vote for my local Republican rep. I'm going to vote for my local Republican state house person. I'm going to vote our down ballot. Or again, what it looks like we've seen more of. We'll look more into the counting. But in a lot of these states, what happened, it wasn't even that there was people voting Biden and then down ballot red. It was people that were voting Biden and then leaving down ballot blank because they just didn't care. And then people showing up voting Trump down ballot R, and then that propelling R's in these down ballot races. But again, and just to kind of wrap up here, that's the nightmare scenario for Democrats. The only thing they pushed people wanted was getting rid of Trump. So now they have to actually do things. The things they had proposed to do, nobody wants them to do, and are going to be unpopular, apparently. Electoral told them that. So now they have to find new things to do? Things they didn't run on? Things that aren't too progressive? That they have to get past Mitch McConnell? With Joe Biden as the leader? Yeah, sorry. I'm going to come back to it. I am convinced. That is the nightmare scenario. Oh, yeah. And then COVID infections keep peaking and spiking. Yeah. That's going to be awesome for the Democrats. Especially when the Democrats spent the last year making sure that everybody knows the President of the United States is personally responsible for protecting you from coronavirus. It's his job. Fair or not, falls on his shoulders. He's the president. Well, now Biden's the president. Now, fair or not, it falls on his shoulders. Now he's responsible. But now he's got to work with Mitch McConnell. He has to work with the skittish House that has a lot of vulnerable moderates right now that are realizing, hot damn, am I vulnerable? He has to contend with this now. So, especially because this, again, getting back to the whole fair or not thing, you got a special Senate election coming up at the beginning of January. You got some stuff going on. Biden doesn't even take over if he wins. Biden won't even take over until end of January. I mean, what? Then he's going to have to litigate his cabinet with Mitch McConnell and the Republicans, assuming they hold a special elections. Yeah, like, when even is Joe Biden going to be able to make meaningful progress on his COVID response? Do you think voters are going to care? Again, when it's June 2021 and we're still hearing about coronavirus, you think voters are going to care that early on Biden got kind of a raw deal? No, they're not even going to remember. They're just going to say, what the hell? Why? I thought Biden was going to fix this. That's all they're going to say. They're not going to say, oh, well, Mitch McConnell. No. And then, I mean, everyone said Biden's going to be a one-term president anyway. And, dude, if Biden won by these margins, Kamala Harris would have lost 47 states. Like, no one likes Kamala Harris. Maybe not 47. But, like, Kamala would have, like, they probably would have called the race for Trump already if Kamala was actually running, not just the VP. So I don't know. Maybe the Democrats will really maybe they'll get their shit together. Maybe they'll figure out a lot of stuff that they'll get their healthcare message on point. Maybe that'll happen. I don't see it happening. I really don't. And that could just kind of, again, not like apocalyptic suck, but that could just kind of suck for us as Americans. We might just have to deal with more party bickering. And again, if party bickering continues and Trump's no longer the president, Democrats are at the disadvantage. Because when Trump was in office, they could always point to Trump. Now there is no big evil meanie in charge of the Republicans. Like, I mean, how mad you really going to get people on Mitch McConnell? They've been trying for years. How mad you're really going to get people on Mitch McConnell? Come on. The orange meanie is gone. The attention is going to be on Democrats now. People are going to be expecting things from Democrats. And they're going to be expecting things Democrats didn't campaign on because nobody wants what they campaigned on. They're going to be expecting that Joe Biden takes care of this coronavirus thing. That's what voters are going to be expecting. That's what they were told. So, hopefully, right? Hopefully for the Dems, they get coronavirus under control. Hopefully for the Dems, they find something about the Republicans to keep attacking. Because like Mitch McConnell all of a sudden is going to pass Medicare for all? That's all of a sudden going to get past the Mitch McConnell Senate? Let Senate Republican Senate? Maybe. Maybe they get Mitt Romney and a few other people to go over and maybe. I mean, again, like Nancy Pelosi is telling people not to run on Medicare Medicare for all. Nancy Pelosi is saying don't run on that. Run on like more affordable health care. Because if you run on Medicare for all, we're going to lose our Georgia stuff. These Georgia runs. So it looks like all those progressives who said that Joe Biden is just GOP light, right now, they look pretty smart. Because it looks like the Joe Biden admin is just going to end up as GOP light. I remember I saw talk about Biden was looking at some Republicans to bring in to his cabinet. Hey, line it up for it. Yeah, I know. Stock market is literally up because Republicans held the Senate, which is hilarious, but that's more or less it. Nothing's going to happen. Awesome. Don't have to worry about any big... things will more or less be the same for a while. I'm not upset about Biden. I think the Democratic Party ran a really stupid campaign and have painted themselves into a really stupid position. Like, dude, I didn't vote for Joe Biden. I didn't think he was going to be a great president. I still don't think he's going to be a great president. And I think now he's like on like hard mode. Everything's lining up against him. He's going to have to wrangle with the Senate a bit. The House has a lot of skittish, moderate Democrats that, like, Nancy Pelosi is saying, don't talk about all the progressive stuff we were talking about. You know, just pretend that didn't happen. And so it's just going to create the circumstance where, here's the thing, nothing fundamentally changing. It could lead to a Yang 2024. Do you know what nothing fundamentally changing also could lead to? It could lead to Drain the Swamp 2024. And that's what I think it is. I think we're going to find ourselves right back. 2024 is going to look a lot like 2016. I think Joe Biden is going to be, I mean, Joe Biden was even when he was like, in the primary was even saying like, I'm not going to run for 2 terms, right? Like 2024, we're going to have basically two challengers running for an empty office. I know technically the Democrats will have the in, but you know what I mean? I mean, you'll have two people whose names will not on the ballot for president in 2020 running in 2024. And if nothing gets done, and you just see this kind of general frustration and rot with frustration with the progressives that Americans showed at the end of the Biden term, of the Obama era. If that continues, we're on track for, yes, another kind of Trump in 20. I said it before. We're gonna have like a Hispanic, I said it before. We're gonna have a woman, from like some former socialist South American company, who's like full on MAGA, and she's going to be like young and kind of take over like an AOC and explode on the scene in one of these things. Gonna see a lot of stuff like that. Yeah, I'm not saying drain the swamp like drain the swamp's a bad thing. I just mean you're going to see another person. We got to take these people. We got to get rid of the establishment. And then you know what's going to happen? Whoever says they're going to get rid of the establishment, it'll turn out whoever it is that's going to say, I'm the one that's going to drain the swamp. I'm the one that's going to get, I'm the one who's going to get money out of politics, as you brought up. You know what the media is going to tell you? They're going to say, hey, you know that guy who wants to get money, or that guy or girl who wants to get money out of politics? Hey, you know that guy or girl who wants to drain the swamp? They're evil. Yeah, I know you didn't know it. I know nobody knew it, but they're evil. And like, you literally are just, you morally cannot support them. Look, I know you want money out of politics. I know you want the swamp drained, but they're just evil, so you can't support them. So, like, we don't even have to have these arguments over, like, should we drain the swamp, or, like, should money be out of politics? Because the only person supporting it's evil. And, like, you don't want evil, right? So, like, we don't have to even have this discussion. So, and that, I think that's why I'm a bit agitated, is realizing that. Realizing that Mitch McConnell, Nancy Pelosi, and Joe Biden, same 80-year-olds that have been in office forever, rubbing shoulders, having Mai Tais, and laughing about us peasants, is all we're ever destined for. That's it. That's all this country's ever destined for. If anyone sticks their neck out to make anything other than that true, the media comes along and goes, oh, sweetie, you can't support them. They're evil. You just have to support status quo forever. Oh, really? Well, you're not evil, are you? Oh, I'm not evil. Okay. I guess just status quo forever. So, I don't know. I hope the way you guys have felt about this election cycle and this just, I hope you enjoyed it, because that seems to be where we're headed for a long time in our politics. The media is just unstoppable. Because again, like, the media was running against Trump in a way. I know the media is a crazy way of framing it, but like, the big publications were all hands on deck to beat Trump, and it worked. The big media publications were not all hands on deck to flip the Senate and flip the House, and they and extend the House lead. That's why that didn't happen. Only the media can win races right now like this for the Democrats, and it's not inevitable. One day it'll be Republicans, but I'm just saying, like, without the full weight behind whatever that thing they're running on is, they're destined to lose. So when you get the full media machine behind a thing, it'll work. You can get it. You can hold on to the establishment majority that way. You can ensure the establishment maintains control forever. And they are, man. No, progressivism will be on the decline. This election is the death of progressivism unless some crazy stuff happens. Like this death was this election was the complete referendum on the progressives. They didn't win anything in particular. Again, People like Jim Clyburn and Nancy Pelosi, the establishment. Jim Clyburn, quote, "If we are going to run on Medicare for all to fund the police, socialized medicine, we're not going to win." That's how the establishment Dems are talking right now. And you know who's parroting these things? Nancy Pelosi and her top lieutenants. They're parroting exactly this. You have people swearing and freaking out on meetings with the Democrats about how dare you almost cost me my seat. Dude, the squad, that's like 4 people out of how many 100 Congress people? Freshmen? They've been there for what? Oh, they got reelected twice or once? Like, dude, they're meaningless in the grand scheme of things. The Jim Clyburns, the Nancy Pelosi's, people that actually make decisions and matter in Congress, they're saying disregard all of this. They're saying we need to go on lowering healthcare, but not universal, better paychecks, but nothing crazy. That's what they're saying. Listen to this. The comments from Pelosi and Clyburn echo many private conversations that have taken place among members and top aides in the past 48 hours, with moderate Dems and even some left-leaning members arguing that GOP attacks on socialism and law and order cost their party support in Trump country. Yeah. Listen to this. Rep. Abigail Spanberger of Virginia, we talked about her at the beginning, a blue dog whose race remains uncalled, though she declared victory this week, grew angry. She warned her party against some of the rhetoric she argued hurt moderate Democrats like herself, saying the election results were a failure. No one should ever say to fund the police ever again. Nobody should be talking about socialism. We will get effing torn apart. She's one of several Democrat battleground Dems who faced a barrage of GOP attack ads. Yada, yada, yada. But yeah, I mean, that it looks like this was a win for never Trumpers and establishment Dems and nobody else. Everyone else got owned. Really, it was a win for the establishment, a loss for the populists, right and left. Establishment conservatives won. Right? They won big. They still hold the Senate. Mitch McConnell's going to be wheeling and dealing allegedly, and who's even in Biden's cabinet. They're on track. The Republicans are on track to take back the House. Again, all these Republicans who were saying that Trump was the worst, the nasty man when he was running against them, and then Trump won, so they're like, okay, Trump's okay, I guess. All of them have not said a word right now. They're all just sitting on their hands going like, cool. So once Trump's gone, we get to just go back to everything else we've always been doing. There's like no pressure on us to even do anything different. Hey, we're not even going to have the stain of being on the party of Trump anymore. Trust me, good old Mitch and Nancy and Joe, they'll be palling around. We'll be palling around. Oh, us. You know, the boys are back in town. But like the populists on the right and the left, oh, they're kind of wrecked. Kind of got nowhere to go. Tell you what, don't ask too many questions or look into school shootings too much. Just don't do it. Just whatever the media tells you about them, accept that. You're better off. No, what? Why do these things happen? Just whatever they tell you, man. Just take that reason. Okay. Any last topics or anything you guys want to talk about? Let's do them. Wrapping up here, getting towards the end. it's just, man, this really was the absolute worst. Like, this was the last thing I wanted to see. The last thing I wanted to see was establishment across the board, right and left, eke out narrow victories with a contested election that drags on for days, maybe weeks. Literally the last thing I wanted, and that is exactly what we got. Seriously, either Trump or Biden just sweeping on election night would have been so much preferable to this. But this long draw, I mean, dude, the way they're counting these votes too, like, Jesus, can they just report the votes in a way where it isn't like, can they just report the votes in a way where it doesn't look like a third world dictator stealing the election? I'm not saying one is, I don't believe that, but this is literally what it looks like when they do. Like, there really wasn't a better way of reporting these. There wasn't a better way of counting these. They couldn't have said, you know what, let's hold off reporting some of these results like a day or so because things are going to be all screwy. But no, let's just count the votes so Biden is trailing in Georgia up until 99.95% of votes have been counted. Let's do it that way. Like, literally, when a government rigs an election, they just have a regular election, and then at the last minute, they close the polls, jimmy up enough ballots, and then, oh, what do you know? That populist who was going to be fighting against the dictator, they had a chance, but they just barely petered off at the end. And again, I'm not saying that is what's happening behind the scenes, but that's what it looks like to like people. So I'm not surprised when I see these some Trump voters freaking out, because yeah, it looks crazy. and just because some Atlantic reporter said, well, you know, the last 45% of votes they count in every swing state will be 96% Biden. Oh, now that you say that. Like, it just looks crazy. They really couldn't. There really is no better way of doing this. I don't know. But it just. And again, like, optics are a big deal here. They need to have a way of doing this where the results are updated quickly enough and they're updated across the board enough where it isn't just. Because, like. Assuming everything is fair and above board, I'm assuming it is. Just like box of ballots, 85% Biden. Box of ballots, 95% Biden. Box of ballots, 75% Biden. That looks stupid when that's how the elections run, when it's like that wasn't how the state was tracking. It looks stupid. Please find a better way of doing this. And then how about this? How about, okay, so we did the box drops that just completely shifted the election. We're at like 85% ballots counted. Now we're going to count no ballots for 3 days. And then over the next 3 days, we're just going to speculate and have lawsuits and we're not going to count any. And then the amount of outstanding ballots will fluctuate over those 3. Like get the hell out of here, man. This election looks ridiculous. It looks like it looks like some third world dictators trying to steal it for themselves. But the only thing is, it isn't the person in charge winning, unless Trump isn't actually in charge. But hey, that's a separate story. But again, the only issue here, and I honestly think it may be the only issue here, is just in how they're counted and reported. They just might be counted, reported, and just kind of moved around in a way where things look stupid. Where they're not able to update quickly enough, where the fact that you have these counties that swing back and forth, not just make the election look like it just doesn't matter, you know? Because obviously you're going to have counties that are going to be like 70-30. You're going to have 80-20 counties, and they're going to be reporting, right? I get that. But like, dude, if this is how every election goes, where it's like, I know you're winning with 85% of the vote reporting, but there's a pretty good percent that of the 15% of the votes to be reported, 95% of them go to your opponent. So we can't call it yet. It's like, well, F&A, man, can we count the votes in faster then so that doesn't happen where I don't have a massive lead with very few votes left to count until, Oh my god. Man. Let's see. I'll pull up the Bloomberg. I'll pull up the Bloomberg article. Let me look. Only because I think I know the general instant you're talking about. I'm trying to pull up the article, but yeah, it's ridiculous. It's. But again, like it literally just could be in the order that they count the ballots, in the order and they report the ballots in. That could be the issue we're looking at here. It's just they are idiots who have no idea how many votes are out there. They have no idea how many they have to count, and they have no idea how to get this information moved around. So the information is all over the place. It could just be that, but yeah, like it is kind of funny to me. All these people who are just like, what do you mean? What do you mean it's weird that every swing state has been 80-20 Biden votes counted for the last 2 days after election night? What do you mean that's weird? That's just what the journalist said would happen. Oh. The journalist said it would happen. So it's not weird anymore. It doesn't make America look stupid anymore. Hey, CNN would be pounding the damn table for international investigations into an election that appeared like this one does in other countries. And again, I guarantee you a lot of the times we do go into these foreign countries and investigate it, and it is less fraud and more a bunch of stupid morons who can't run an election properly. So everything gets like, they just don't know. Like, we think they're winning. Oh, whoopsies. There's 150,000 votes we didn't know, and they're all for one candidate. Like, that's... People apparently don't take the actual election part of the election very seriously. Like, the people who run the elections, apparently not taken very seriously. So yeah, they just screw up, don't know what they're doing. They're just kind of idiots. Sounds right to me. And again, like I don't think there's widespread corruption that tilted the election in Biden's favor. I don't believe that. I'm of the camp that some of the number discrepancies come from the fact that the Orange Cheetos Hitler narrative worked, but nothing else did. So people just felt compelled to vote against Trump, but they just don't care about the Democrats. That's what I believe happened here. Like there was voter fraud in this election because there's voter fraud in every election. I just don't know if it like switched the election. You know what I mean? I don't think that's true. I just think the bigger thing is they gotta have it's ridiculous that Florida can count their votes faster than like Pennsylvania. Like why are Alaska and North Carolina not called yet? I mean, like, oh, Soul Joe, hey, welcome, man. How you doing? It's mad we can't perfectly instantly count all votes in 2020. It's the age of IT communication. I'm watching the stream from freaking Hong Kong. Exactly, yes. I mean, how about the fact that like 45 states could get their result, their ballots in on one day? It's only the swing states that really matter. Where apparently not going to get too far into it, but it's like, really, like you guys didn't know you were gonna like. I think some counties in Wisconsin had like 150% plus voter turnout. Like they really didn't know it was going to be a big election. They really weren't ready for this. Also, I don't understand how mail-in ballots, which they start mailing mail-in ballots out. Like, how far in the future? And those are the ones that are counted 4 days after polls close? Those aren't the ones in a box sitting in a room ready to be counted on election day? Really? Like, that doesn't make any sense. Or what? Or is the idea that 5% of the total voters in some of these swing states got their mail-in ballot in September and then just decided to not mail it until literally election day? They went to the mailbox on election day and mailed it then. No, I think it's votes they should have been able to count on election day. They couldn't because they're stupid and incompetent and have bad systems with bloated, awful administration that don't know what they're doing. And I think because of that, everything looks bad on the outside. Everything looks like just like shoddy and cheap. They can't, but like, I know they can't count it, but they literally can't have a room that's like, well, we've been receiving these ballots in the mail for 3 months or whatever it was. We'll put them in the room. So on election day, at vote, like, what the hell? But I don't know. Apparently, nah, man. I think states like Vegas, Nevada, we're just not going to report anymore today, guys. I don't know. It's 2020. It's America. This should be able to be counted faster. No, but like, they can count them on election day, right? Here's the thing, is that normally most people in the state overwhelmingly vote in person, for most states, not all, on election day. So they don't even have the ballot. Like, they can't count the ballots a day early because they don't have them. Like, this issue of not being able to count ballots before election day, that's not new. It's always like that. And I know we've had states before where it took a while for them to do full counts. I know that. But I mean, like, we have states where it's just like been days, and it's like Pennsylvania. Where was it in Georgia where they were like, oh yeah, multiple counties in Georgia forgot to hit send on their results. That's why they're still outstanding. Just like stupid stuff like this. Again, I don't think there's fraud that's leading to the numbers shifting. I don't even think it's these, mail-in ballot totals. I think it's just they're morons are running these systems. They're being counted in stupid ways that make everything look stupid. No, it's what I mean. Like, Florida can knock it out one day. In Florida, I think it's mail-in votes too. How about Ohio? Well, Ohio wasn't, I guess it wasn't close, but they need to come up with a system for counting ballots where we don't have elections, where for literally days after the election, hundreds of thousands of votes are counted nationally that are like 8-1 for one candidate. It looks stupid, and it doesn't have to be that way. You could just you could count the votes quicker, release them quicker, so it isn't this just steady trickle. Because if they dropped a bunch of votes and it was like, well, we counted all the Biden counties, boom, Biden's the lead now. That's what normally happens on election night. People don't freak out. People are starting to freak out only because it's been like days, like literally days, where they're like, oh, we found 80,000 more ballots, counted them. Okay, 75% Biden. Well, we're not done yet. We have to wait. Oh, we found 75,000 more ballots. Let's count them. Oh, 95% Biden. Like, that looks dumb, dude. No one likes that. And again, I don't think it's cheating or fraud. I think it's literally just count and post the numbers in a quicker and a bit more of a timely manner. Because seriously, on election night, you do have these moments where it's like they'll count a big metropolitan area. Democrat takes a big lead. Then they'll count the big rural area. Republican takes a big lead. That's not weird. We're used to that. It's the having it happen slowly over 48 hours after election night. I think that's what people object to, and I don't blame them. I think some of the conspiracy theories on how, like, the corruption and they're stealing the election, but like being upset because the results were one thing and then slowly over the course of multiple days, votes came in that were like wildly disproportionately in favor of one candidate. Yeah, it's just going to look dumb, so we have to clean that up. Well, also there's the thing with this election too, though. The idea of having a ballot be mailed in is something we've done in this country. The idea of shotgunning a ballot to every registered voter in a lot of states was not something we'd always done. That was absentee and voting through the mail system conceptually is a practice we have done. Voting by mail the way we did in the 2020 election cycle was fairly unprecedented, and it was not how we'd done it. And clearly it didn't work. Maybe work's the wrong word. Clearly, the systems we use to take in the votes, decide when we count them, when we don't count them, and then when we report them, that needs to be cleaned up big time. That needs to be cleaned up. Hopefully it will be. Hopefully it will be. Again, I have a feeling not a whole lot's really going to happen in the government for a few years. It looks like all that's going to happen is kind of gridlock and bickering. Well, I mean, the weird thing, too, just talking about, like, density and stuff, the founding fathers tried to solve that with the House and the Senate, right? Where it's like population density is a lot more relevant when it comes to the House of Representatives. Population density a lot less relevant when it comes to the Senate. And you can kind of have them check each other. And for president, I mean, honestly, look at these last few elections. The Electoral College works pretty okay. It really does. Like Biden's going to win, get an electoral win here. And because, dude, people talk about the popular vote. Let's do some fun math. Let's do some fun math right here. I haven't even looked this up beforehand. I could just almost tell you for a fact. Let's pull it up. Whatever lead Joe Biden has in the popular vote nationally, it's going to be made up at least 85 to 90% by his popular vote lead in California. That's my bet. Let's take a look. So Joe Biden's leading the popular vote by, we'll round up to 4 million votes. He's leading California by 4 million votes. So that's why the popular vote is stupid. It literally is California picking the president. Literally. I mean, that's actually a larger popular vote margin. Like, Joe Biden's popular vote margin, actually, if you just removed California, it looks like he'd be trailing in the popular vote to Donald Trump. That is how big of a deal it is. How funny is that? 4.12 million. California alone. But I understand people got gripes against the Electoral College, but trust me, California's 45 million people deciding who the president is forever, that's not a good idea either. So, it's not a good idea. Okay, that's it. Last few minutes here. Any last questions, let me know, and then I'll be winding down. I mean, maybe California should just be split up into multiple states, huh? Add some new senators. Why not? Oh, Matt, you're too kind. Thank you. I appreciate it. When is my hair running for president? Never. My hair, you know why? My hair is too young and vibrant to ever be old enough to run for president. Well, you know what's funny? I'm actually really interested in seeing what Yang does now, because Yang doesn't have to shill for Biden anymore. It's over. Yang gets to be himself again. Woo! Especially because I don't know if Mitch McConnell's going to let Andrew Yang into the cabinet, so what the hell? Why not? Be loose. Be merry. Be free, right? I still don't see why splitting electoral votes nationwide is not a good compromise between popular vote and winner takes all electoral college. I think it's just because we're too... I don't think it's the worst compromise, but I just don't know if it's a necessary one, I guess, is the better way of putting it. Like, I don't know if it fun. Because here's the thing, like, if the rules were different, both parties would be set up and campaigning differently for president. Like, things are the way they are right now, in part because that's the system we have. It's not to say things won't adapt and adjust into an equally awful and terrible way around a hybrid system, you know? Because then you're just going to run into a situation where, like, let me tell you something. You want to split up electoral votes instead of having one. I always like to bring this up. LA County is, like, bigger than most countries population-wise. I mean, you're going to have these massive counties. Because here's the thing. In a way, you could almost say some of these big states, it makes them less relevant. Because, like, okay, fine. Like, those, like, Montana parts of California, they're just going to be like Montana again. No one's going to go campaign. And again, like, what? Like, are Democrats all of a sudden going to have to go campaign in Los Angeles because the whole state doesn't distribute delegates anymore, you know? Like, all of a sudden, Republicans are going to win the Northern California delegates. Like, maybe when you get outside of San Francisco, you get into some of those more rural counties up there, maybe, but... But I just don't know if the proposed solutions will really be that much. And I don't think the Electoral College system, honestly, is that bad. I think it works pretty good. I think this election is a reason why you can go and see why the Electoral College system works pretty good. It's not perfect, but it works pretty good. I mean, dude, you want to know what's funny? There's probably 7 million Republicans in California that are active voters, right? Let's say that. That is adding 3 million to the amount of people who voted for Donald Trump. And if there was 7 million active Republican voters in California and they all came out and they all voted Trump, he still would have lost to Joe Biden. Yeah, I mean, voting in New York, you vote for president. It's not that you vote for president doesn't count. But what I would say is look at your ballot. Look at all the things you vote for on your ballot that aren't president. Your vote counts a whole hell of a lot more for all those things, man. I mean, the president let me tell you something. Kind of talking about this all stream. It looks like Joe Biden's going to be president. He would fucking love to have the House and the Senate, or have the Senate and a very comfortable House lead as well. You know, I don't know how great it's going to be to have the presidency, but then have a basically gridlocked tie in Senate and a bunch of skittish, not even skittish, but just a bunch of moderate Dem Congress people that are like, well, you know, like I kind of have to, like, you know, play both sides. Like, I can't go too far one way or the other. I have to make sure I get reelected. So that's that, guys. Again, I hope everyone had a great election week. The pro-Trump militia is preparing for civil war. They largely don't exist. Like, I understand literally you could show me people, and I get it. But largely, that's not a real thing. Or largely not a thing to warrant concern is what I would say. Yeah, maybe the gridlocks what Biden wants. I don't know how it helps the Democrats, though. So, like I'm sure Joe Biden would love to have an excuse to not do anything, but American voters will just say, well, what the hell, Democrats? Why didn't you do anything? You promised once the orange man was gone, like utopia was coming. What the hell? And then, might be tough. Well, that's what I mean, though. Democrats don't want Biden. They just want Trump gone. I agree, man. But now Trump's gone and they're stuck with Biden. You know? It's sun's up now. It's morning. Now we have to deal with what happened. Now we have to deal with the president nobody actually wanted, but we just all had to kind of collectively, you know, like be forced to support. Now we have to deal with that. And we have to deal with that with the same dumb idiots in the House, the same dumb idiots in the Senate. Dude, I'm sure you'd rather be stuck with Biden than stuck with Trump. It doesn't change the fact that, like, Donald Trump having been president in the past becomes very irrelevant very quickly. And for the next 4 years, Joe Biden has to navigate through all these things now. Like I said, it's morning now. Yeah, it was a crazy night, wild night. We did all kinds of crazy things. Now Biden's our president. And again, if you think Biden not doing a whole lot and having a stagnant kind of government is not going to lead to a 2022 and 2024 drain the swamp MAGA push to just bring us right back into the same stupidity all over again, I don't know. That's kind of what I'm leaning towards. It's kind of what I think is going to happen. Because, so, you know, returning to the general moderate, manageable amount of incompetence, corruption, and gridlock is returning to somebody running to drain the swamp. That's what it is. I don't think it'll literally be a Trump. I just think it'll be somebody running as a conservative on kind of that MAGA message. Well, I mean, I think the real, like, once it got to it's Trump versus Biden, and that's what's going to happen, and the election has to happen, look, that's where you're at. There's nowhere to go, right? But, like, I'm trying to think of the right way to set this analogy, you know. But, like, sometimes there's things where, like, when you're in it, you don't really see it. It's just the primary happened. We got to get someone who could beat Trump in the election. We got to get Trump out. Trump's the worst. Oh my God, Trump's so bad. Trump is so terrible. Trump is so evil. Trump is so awful. Trump. And then just one day, there is no Trump. Just one day, there's just Joe Biden. And then that day is coming, is my point. The government doesn't just suddenly work great. You know, Joe Biden, the guy who is on like his 4th presidential run because nobody ever wanted to make him president ever, is president. The only part of the Democratic platform that resonated with voters was Orange Man bad, well, Orange Man gone. And they're kind of back to the drawing board on what their message on healthcare actually is. They're back to the drawing board on what their message on like everything actually is. Because nobody wanted anything else they had to sell. Sorry, I'm talking in circles now. Said I'd be done a minute ago. We're going to be done. Thank you for joining, everybody. Going to be doing another stream pretty shortly here. Probably will do another video or stream when Biden is officially confirmed. Or officially, not confirmed, but like once these vote totals get to the point where they seem to be set in stone. Again, I mean, I assume Biden's going to win. But again, Trump having been racist in the past doesn't matter when Biden's the president in 2022 and everyone hates each other and the country sucks. And like things just didn't get better. You know? Like, and that's what I'm worried about. That's what I'm talking about. Take care, everyone. Have a